Way back in the day, coding was like this niche hobby that certain people did just because they loved it. There was no magic around it. It wasn't an overpaid career. There was just passion. But then, the hype beast got a hold of it. And now, everybody and their mom wants to learn code. This includes a new wave of people who actually have zero interest in programming, but a lot of interest in money. Not really a problem with me, because the more trash developers there are floating around, the more valuable good developers become. So when learning to code, I see two main fields. First, practical software development, like making apps or websites. Learning this is great for automating your business, contributing new innovations to society, and overall, just bringing your creative ideas to life. Second, computer science concepts like data structures and algorithms. Learning this is great for understanding how everything works under the hood, but let's be real, you don't care about that. The only reason you learn this is to work at a place that you can brag about on LinkedIn to people who don't actually like you. Don't worry, me too. But this video will focus on the first one, getting started with practical software development. I think the best way to learn is project-based learning. Just trying to create a project. Pick an idea for an app or website that sounds fun, do some research on what's the best framework to build it, and then just do it. Learn as you go along. Now, obviously, my advice for learning how to make a project isn't just make a project. That's like telling a poor person to just make more money. But what I'm saying is have a goal or idea in mind first, and then break it up into smaller parts until you have things manageable enough to work on. As an example, say you come up with an idea for an amazing new iPhone app. The first thing I tell you is, sorry, it's been done before. But let's say you actually do come up with something revolutionary, like an app that points you in the direction of your lover so that you can send them air kisses and it would eventually reach them. Break this project into smaller projects. First, both people need to be able to interact with the app. Then it needs to be able to grab the GPS coordinates of both users. Then it needs to send this information to a database. Then you gotta find the formulas to calculate heading and bearing. Use this calculation to update the rotation degree of an arrow in real time and then send that back to the clients. Then finally, realize that due to the limitations of GPS, it turns out your air kisses are still flying in the wrong direction. Not only missing your lover, but even worse, landing on someone else's lover. Whoops. I just called it a feature and put it on my resume anyway. Your first ever projects are always going to be the hardest because apart from just learning the framework, you need to learn how to code in general. That's why it's best not to focus on learning a specific language, but rather focus on learning core fundamentals of programming. After you learn one language, it's pretty easy to transfer those skills and pick up a new language. The exception here is, of course, PHP. This language is so unpredictable and inconsistent that if you have to learn it, you may as well throw away any prior experience you have and start writing code in Mandarin. But now that we're talking about languages, this brings me to the most common question on tech YouTube.
What programming language should I learn?
And the answer is, it really depends on what you want. JavaScript is a pretty good choice if you just want a job. It's pretty versatile. This started as a front-end language, but now you can do backend with Node.js, and you can make mobile apps with React Native. HTML and CSS, not really a programming language. It's more like design, but it's great for making 12-year-olds feel like hackers. Ruby is good if you don't actually like programming. MATLAB is the language for engineering students or scientists. R is the language for engineering students or scientists who can't afford MATLAB. Java developers are the basic white girls of tech. Your favorite show is Rick and Morty, you listen to Billie Eilish, and you spend your weekends drinking other people's bathwater. C# is just a better version of Java. Kotlin is just a better version of Java. Rust is just a version of C++ that will never catch on. C and C++ are the bane of my existence. It's deceptively comforting at first. You finally have friends, plus the syntax kinda looks like Java, but I soon learn about pointers and the lack of garbage collection. When it comes to managing my own memory, I basically have Alzheimer's. Alright, so now that we got those out of the way, let's talk about the only language that actually matters. Python's usually my recommendation for anyone who wants to get into programming. Because apart from creating native mobile apps, there's not much you can't do using Python. I mean, develop backend, check. Develop games, check. Develop bots, check. Develop bots that teach themselves how to develop more bots and eventually take over the world, check. I noticed Python attracts two types of people. First, the normal dude, probably a self-taught developer who didn't study computer science in college, but just finds Python a simple language that gets the job done. But then there's this breed of intense fanatics we call the open source contributors. These guys learn how to code before they learn how to read. They write text messages to their mother formatted with Flake 8 styling and will name their firstborn in accordance to Snake Case. I still remember when I first tried to learn code. I was 12 years old and I wanted to create an Android app, which was essentially going to be a Super Mario ripoff, but with turtles. Looking back, I think the better move would have been a Super Mario ripoff, but with a bird who can't fly straight. I downloaded Eclipse and set up the environment. I created a new project and attempted to run the example code. What I saw next was one of the moments in my life that contributed heavily to my self-growth. 362 errors. Similar to Microsoft Word, an IDE sometimes underlines code that may be incorrect, so I right-click a few of them and automatically fix the problem, right? So then I hit the green triangle again. 6,182 errors. Welcome to the reality of software development. So I begin my journey into learning how to debug. I decided to ask for help from the only friend that I had back then, the internet. I found this place called Stack Overflow and thought it would be a great idea to post my questions there. They pretty much just told me to find a new hobby. I guess I deserved that one though. I mean, my question was probably so stupid. But even with more experienced devs, I think posting on Stack Overflow is pretty brutal. You can ask for help on figuring out how to set up the architecture for the first ever self-driving unicycle coded in a language that came out yesterday and still get marked as duplicate. Alright, now that you're an expert on learning how to code, I thought I'd finish it off with a lesson on ethics. It's important not to get carried away with this new power, because once people first start learning how to create original products, a lot may find it tempting to create viruses or malicious software. When I was 14, there was this kid who was 100% not me. He thought it'd be funny to create an app of a fake Instagram login page. He went to class and pretended like he couldn't log into his Instagram. He acted scared that his account got banned or something, and he asked some classmates around him to see if they could log into their accounts. It was all fake, however. He actually just set it so that it would save every login attempt, and he now had the passwords to his classmates' Instagram. Turns out, these people use the same password for everything, including their email. If you want to protect yourself from people like that kid, you should consider not using the same password for everything. Chances are one of those passwords have already leaked somewhere. So if someone wants the password to your email, you better hope your Club Penguin password didn't get leaked 6 years ago. I understand that it can be such a hassle to memorize different passwords for every service you use. Nowadays, I just use Dashlane to handle all of that for me. Dashlane is a mobile and desktop app that gives you a shortcut for everything you do online. Log in instantly, fly through forums, and breeze through checkouts on every device you own. You can save time by instantly logging in to all your services and finally feel secure online. Go to dashlane.com/trendblack to try Dashlane on your first device and get 10% off a premium account.